This is a 2015 Mazda CX-5 Sport, and so it's got about 125,000 miles. You can look in the video description for links to tools and products. They're on Amazon. All right, so I'm making little separate videos on all these jobs I did, but I originally did them mixed in with a bunch of other work, and I'll put a link to the long video in the video description. Coming under the front of the car on the driver's side, trying to show you, come under, and there's this access panel right here with that screw. It's a Phillips head screw. I'm thinking this might be to access the drain plug for the coolant. We're gonna find out real quick together. This one screw, access panel slides out. Yes, it is. Try to get you a picture up in there with the light. You can see that white plastic knob right there. So we're gonna loosen that white plastic knob so coolant starts to drain out this hole. All right, so we're gonna drain our coolant. We're gonna go ahead and open up this cap right here. And what this will do, never do this when the engine is hot, by the way. The engine's not been ran all day. So we're gonna go ahead and let that cap just kind of rest on there so air can flow. I'm gonna come underneath where I took that access panel off. I've got a bucket here to catch coolant, and I got some pliers to grab this. Let me show you. All right, let's see. So remember I showed you in that access panel, we're gonna unscrew this white bolt and it's gonna drain coolant out of there. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay, just barely grab it with the pliers and it loosened it up. Now what I'm gonna do is just start loosening until it starts leaking out. Okay, I'm just gonna let that go for a long time. So. All right, so we'll check back in with you later. Good if you can just have a big bucket there, because we should get out probably a little over a gallon, I'm guessing. Probably more than 1 gallon, less than 1.5 gallons. And then from up here on this particular vehicle, I would like to clean this reservoir tank. Again, this car has 125,000 miles on it about, and I don't think anything's ever really been done to it. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to see what's connected here. Okay, so I took this trim removal tool. Yours made this pop out, but this one, 9 years of sitting in there. So where this clamp, where this little bracket here goes in, I just put the clamp removal tool in between this and that, like that, just to separate it. And that's all I had to do, was just get something in there, just because it had probably gotten lodged in. I think it's meant to just pop out. So anyway, now that I did that, I'm able to lay this to the side and just pull this out. So that's what we're going to do. Pull that out because I want to empty this and I want to clean it. Okay, so it comes out like this. It's only got that much in it right now. All right, so we dumped that and we're just going to clean that by putting some water inside and kind of shaking it out a little bit. Okay, so I was able to clean this really well. I just used regular soap and a brush and just cleaned the outside. Really put some like hot water on the inside, shook it up, drained it. And then I have trouble seeing this, so I went ahead and took a permanent marker and outlined the L for the low level, and I highlighted the line, and I marked over the F for the full. I highlighted that line because I just can't see it when it's down in there. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Okay, so we popped that back in there, back in those clips right there. You can see there a little bit. So that's clean. So we're just going to give this some more time. And I noticed that, you know, even if you just lay the cap on, it really inhibits the flow. So I went ahead and remove the cap altogether to give that airflow so that it could drain a little faster. So it's going to let it continue to drain. Okay, our coolant is barely down to a drip. Like, it's several seconds in between a drop. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that white nut with our hand. You do not want to use a tool for that. So we're going to get under here. Always want to have eye protection on and everything. So we're just going to reach up in there and just start to tighten. All right, just hand tighten that and it's good. All right, close quarters under here, but putting on our access panel where we had tightened up our coolant drain. Going ahead and sliding that on. So it kind of slides into place there. And then we line up our screw here. So that's our coolant access panel back on. All right, so this is one of those antifreeze coolant testers. This is the old coolant that we drained out. That's right here. So this is what it had in it before. So you get some of that coolant up in there. Okay. See this needle right here? I was distracted by the one at the top. There's a needle inside there. Let me get my hand out of the way. You can see it. So it says that the protection, okay, the blue is Fahrenheit and the orange is Celsius. So we're protected to 262 degrees Fahrenheit and 128 degrees Celsius. So that is probably pretty good stuff, actually, that we took out. With the car having 125,000 miles, just wanted to kind of get it right, so I know that I don't really have to worry about it anymore. We're just gonna test the new stuff. So remember, this is already 50-50. We don't add any. We're using this Xerex Asian vehicle. It meets the same standards as the Mazda coolant. Alright, so out of our new bottle, we squeeze in on that, put it in there, and then let it go and let it draw up the new fluid. Okay, so yeah, there is a difference. It's maxed out. So there is a difference. So we were down here with the other one. So instead of 262 degrees Fahrenheit, this surpasses 268. And instead of 128 degrees Celsius, it surpasses 131. So this does the max that it can possibly. It went beyond the reading of this device. So I'm impressed that this cheap little thing works. I used to have one of these many years ago. Don't know what happened to it. And last year sometime I was like, I'm gonna buy another one of those just so I can test it. And it is easy and it works. So anyway, we're gonna do the coolant now. So just a word about that. So you can do it different ways. I invested in a tool for this job that I've used many times on all of our vehicles. And it is a Lisle, it's called a Lisle brand spill-free funnel, model 24680. I'm going to put a link in the description. It comes with this funnel. It comes with this yellow plug. You're going to see how we use all this. This goes down in there to keep it from leaking. It comes with a bag of goodies, different adapters, different size, everything. And so what you do is you figure out what works for your car. So this shape of a cap worked for ours, and this green adapter was the closest thing I could find. I was hoping for a perfectly secure fit, but we're gonna see if this is tight enough to keep any air in it. So what we're doing is we've already drained our fluid. We got a little over a gallon out, right at a gallon. So this with the O-ring, the rubber ring, goes down in there, sits like that. We take our cap that matched. The easiest way is to see if the cap fits with nothing before you waste your time trying to do it with something. So that cap fits. It's not as tight as I would like. So I'm hoping this works. See how I can jiggle that just a little bit? I'd feel better if it was, you know, immovable. So we'll see how this works. This is gonna be designed to fit every one of those, no matter what color they are. This is gonna make a tight fit in there. So I put that in there. We've already not only drained our fluid, but we've also put the cap back on so that I'm free now to add fluid and I'm not gonna mess anything up. So the way we begin, I have one brand new bottle, and then I have another one that's got some in it. So I have one that has like maybe 1.2 quarts or something like that in it. So I'm going to use it first. It's the same kind, Xerex Asian vehicle, and I compared this to the Mazda one, and they both meet ASTM D3306, and they both contain the same major ingredients. The main ingredients: ethylene, glycol, and diethylene glycol, and water. And so this one also has sodium benzenate, corrosion inhibitors, defoamers, dye, bittering agent. So anyway, the ethylene glycol, diethylene glycol, and the ASTM D3306 was the key information, and it didn't contain any of the chemicals that the owner's manual says to stay away from. So what we do is we just start pouring this in. The car is off right now because it doesn't have any coolant. The funnel design allows the car to accept that. All the bubbling up you see is air. Now this did come with a cap. The cap can be useful, you know, if you want to put that over there and rest it while it's bubbling up so that it doesn't spill out. You don't want to put it on tight, but it can spill out. So that was like 1.2 quarts. We think we're going to need about 4. But the main thing about this, the reason I invested in a funnel is the main challenge of the coolant, is getting all the air out, and it's designed to help us do that. All right, so my wife was pointing out that I was losing a little fluid right here because, like I said, this ideally would be tight. So what I'm gonna do is kind of hold with a rag and not just let the rag sit there, but actually try and kind of squeeze and while I pour this in. So the way this works is it's gonna stop taking it in a little bit, and the fluid's gonna start coming up on the funnel, and it's gonna stay there. So I don't want it to come up beyond this line. I want it to be somewhere in the bottom of the funnel. The reason is most of that's gonna be discarded as old fluid, because when I start the car, it's gonna start circulating, and there's some existing old fluid still in the system. So once I'm done with this job, I don't want to save what's in the funnel. It's going to ultimately be discarded. So I want to limit how much. It's not like it's still clean. It's mixed. So I'm just going to keep adding. Try and keep my pressure. Hopefully limit what we spill. I've had a couple cars where this funnel fit perfect, and a couple where I couldn't quite get the right adapter. So I don't know if there might be some adapters that maybe I could purchase. I need to maybe check in. Yeah, I'm leaking out. So I need to maybe check in with Lisle. Maybe name the cars that it didn't work for me. They didn't work or didn't fit tight on this or my 2017 Elantra. All right, so I'm gonna check my reservoir right now. Yeah, it's gonna be empty also. So I'm starting to think that, yeah, I mean, I think I've already used what I got out. It might have been a little low. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little funnel and a light, and I'm gonna fill up my reservoir to the full. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that right now. So I'm gonna put this funnel in here. This is normally where you would add fluid anyway, where you would add if you were just a little low. So I'm gonna look in here, see if I can see my, remember I marked these up with the marker so I could hopefully see. I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up. This would normally automatically happen if our funnel was sealing right and we started the car. It would do this. This reservoir really doesn't hold that much. It's already almost there. Okay, just gonna add just a little bit more. Looks like I'm almost to the full. To the full. Just barely below it. Okay, you put a hand on that gallon. Hold it for me. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that on video, but I'm to the full mark on the blue. So now I know I have fluid in there, so I know that's accounted for because that needs to be there. We'll check it again, of course, when we're done with this, because it could certainly need more. This makes me think with this that this isn't gonna work, this funnel, so I'm gonna bail on the way this funnel, the way this was supposed to work. If you got a good seal there, was you would let the fluid come up the funnel, and then you would start the car and just watch and have your antifreeze ready, so that if it started to suck in the fluid from the funnel, you could keep some in there so it didn't go dry. You'd have a lot of bubbling effect of the car getting air out. But with it not sealing, instead of the bubbles coming up and out, I think it's just going to spill around the base. So it will happen naturally as the car drives. So the other way to do this is to just keep an eye on your reservoir levels. So I think what we're going to do is just drive the car, start the car, and what we'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and just put the cap back on. Yeah, I'm all the way full, and that's all the way full. So it's full except for we don't know how much air is in the system. So I have this pressurized now. My cap is on. I know that I've added in more than I took out, so I know I'm not any lower on coolant than I was before I did this job. And I'm going to start the car. I'm going to turn the heat all the way on. Heat max, no AC. And what you want is when the thermostat gets hot enough to turn the heat on, these cooling fans, there's two fans in this plastic shroud, a big cooling fan here, cooling fan there. But you can see those kick on. You'll hear them kick on when it gets hot enough. So we're just gonna start the car. So I'm gonna clean up for a second, get all my tools off, then we're gonna start it up. So while we got the hood up, we're gonna go ahead. This is where you add your windshield washer fluid. I have a full gallon here, and it's got a bug remover in it, but it doesn't have the Rain-X. So this treats a gallon, this Rain-X, but since this is full, I'm just gonna put a little bit of this in here. The rest of it I'll end up pouring into that gallon. And this is a cap that I can kind of turn over and undo. All right, so we're gonna start it up for the first time. One thing I'll point out about Mazda is that I don't really, it's fine if you know what it means, but you get this blue coolant light on every time you run the car, and that can make people think something's wrong. But all it really means is that your coolant's not up to temperature yet. So that could be helpful while we're doing this, because we'll know when the coolant reaches temperature. The heat on, full blast. Once the blue coolant light went off, I realized my fans still weren't on, so I switched this over to the defrost setting. Right here, and that kicked the fans on, so that's supposed to be drawing the coolant into everything else. So you got to watch, never stick your hands down in there, but those white fans in the front, there's two of them side by side, right in the front here, so you can see them rotating. And so the way the system works, if it had air in the system and it needed to pull more fluid to replace that air, it would pull it from our reservoir, which we filled up till the full line. So we can always look at the reservoir and see that we're still at the full line. So it hasn't taken any of that. So the reservoir is a safe way to deal with fluid, because the reservoir is not pressurized like this cap is going to be pressurized. You want to leave that on. The only time you ever take that cap off is when the system is cold. And I see that I put the cap off upside down, so when the system's cold, I'll take it off and put it on so that this reads out this direction. Not that it really matters, but I'll make it right. But if you needed to add coolant to a hot engine, when it was not running, you could just be careful taking this cap off, and then you could add to here till it got to the full line, put your cap back on, and because it's not pressurized like the others. So you can hear those fans kicking in. So what we'll do is, recognizing that this may not get all the air out, I still think that funnel did help getting air out as it got added, even though it didn't do what it was really supposed to do. But what we'll do is we'll check this after it's been driven, like when my daughter drives it for a day or 2 or 3. I'll check the level, make sure that the coolant level is right, because with regular driving, it's going to work the air out of the system. So I think that's far enough for us to know that it's doing all right. It's been several minutes. Fans came on several times. Our reservoir level hasn't changed at all. No change at all in the reservoir. Our engine temperature has been up to speed for a long time now, so I'm going to shut the car off. All right, so just an update on the coolant. I think I used 4.2 quarts, but I spilled some. So if you wanted to try and save money, you could buy 1 gallon of this coolant. You could do the job and see where you ended up at by checking your reservoir after you drove it. And if it was a little low, you could go out and buy another gallon. This was $20 at the local O'Reilly's. So I already had a bottle left over from a previous job that had 1.1 quarts in it, and I still have 0.9 left. So I used 4.2 quarts, but like I said, I spilled some. And the reservoir doesn't have to be in the full. It just has to be above the low and below the full. So you could try 1 gallon and do that coolant job and see if you needed to go out and buy another gallon. So just wanted to update you on how much I used.